Hi, everybody. It's Lisa Condon, and I am coming back to you with another amazing author that is part of the project Stepping into Gratitude, the book that is coming out on November 8th of this year. Mary, could you
Oh,
please introduce yourself to our listeners and our audience today and just tell them a little bit about who you are?
absolutely. Thank you, Lisa, for even the invitation to be here. As you said, my name is Mary Meduna-Gross, and I'm an executive well-being coach. I started out wanting to be an amazing leader, and I burned out in the process. And so, part of my own recovery was really bringing in gratitude and not just doing gratitude, but really being gratitude. And so when you offered me the opportunity to be a part of this, like, God, that sounds like a lot of fun.
I love it. I love it. So with that, we had the conversation and you didn't hesitate. You were like, "Yes, I'm in." But as you sat back and thought about it, what really was the decision to really be part of this project? What made you decide like, "Yes, I'm all in?"
As you said, it was an easy thing to say yes to because it does align with my own values
Mhm.
around wellness, and because I believe gratitude, a practice of gratitude, is necessary for well-being.
Mhm.
And so it just aligned with my values. So it's very easy to say yes to.
Mhm.
What was more difficult is after I said yes to you and we got off the call, is like, oh, huh, wonder what I'm going to write about. Because I had no idea about what story was going to emerge.
Mhm. So let's talk about that because obviously each chapter in this book is a story from each author's viewpoint in their life. And for you, you got a story there for sure.
Yeah,
So how has writing this chapter impacted you?
I love that. So much more than I could have ever anticipated. Because again, I think that sometimes I think about my experiences out of my head. I'm not thinking of it, and I'm not experiencing it out of my heart.
Mm,
And so, I'm asking myself, oh, what am I going to write about? And I'm talking to my husband, what do you think I should write about? And that was really just time for me to marinate on this, because what emerged then was the story of my grandmothers and really the influence that my grandmothers have had on me.
mhm. So I'm going to dig into that a little bit more because I watched and witnessed some of your flow through that. So, do you um, see or feel or experience your grandmothers any differently now than what you did prior to reading the chapter or writing the chapter,
Yeah,
not reading it or reading it?
you know what came together for me, I saw the two experiences I had with my grandmothers. I experienced them as separate experiences. One, I was very young, and one, I was an adult. And so it was surprising to me to see the connections between these two experiences. And once I saw the connection, it wasn't one of these things like, oh, I think I can make these things fit together and make it sound like. No, these two were clearly two experiences that, I don't know, how do I say this? That I needed both at the times that I had them.
Mhm.
And only by looking back could I see the connection between those. And I love these looking back experiences now because, again, in the past, I would have thought about my experiences out of my head. Like,
Mhm.
oh, yep, that happened to me. This is what I learned or I liked or didn't like. But this was a different kind of writing. This
Mhm.
was not only what happened, but what was so significant about that for
Mhm.
me.
Yes, I love it. Love it so much. And what I really appreciate about that is I think each of us experience gratitude differently in our lives. We look at it differently, we feel it differently, we approach it differently. And ultimately, that means that we define gratitude differently. And so, Mary, for you, how do you now define gratitude when you look at it?
I think even prior, so before my transformation, right? So before I did my transformation, I saw gratitude as something that I had to do,
Mm.
right? And something I could put on my to-do list because somebody said it was going to make me feel better. But I could never commit to that. And then I'm judging myself. Oh man, you can't even commit to gratitude. What's wrong with you? Right? Right? All that self-judgment. But once I've been through my own transformation, forgiving myself, letting go of a lot of the emotions that I had been holding on to, my experience with gratitude also shifted. And for me, it's not about something that I do, and I can't say that I have a practice every day where I'm sitting down and this is what I'm doing for gratitude. But what I do consciously do is throughout the day, through my experiences, uh, uh, I do my best to be an observer of my experiences rather than just the experiencer of my experiences. And being in that observer role gives me the opportunity again to see these connections that my experiencing self doesn't see. Right, because I'm in it. But if I can step up and think about the theater, right? I'm either on the stage or I'm in those box seats on the side where I'm seeing everything unfold in real time. And so for me, having that position of observation, I get to see those connections and I get to just remind myself of how supported I am and how the resources, everything that I need is always right there. That is my experience of gratitude.
Mm, mm. So, what I also think is really interesting is this whole notion of, and you just talked about it, where you don't necessarily practice something every day. And yet, in essence, you do because you're practicing watching and paying attention and being intentional about that. And I think that um oftentimes, whether it's society or whatever we've been taught, we're practicing has to be, well, you're going to write this down or you're going to journal or you're going to do this. Well, there's no gonna or have to or should. It's really all in how we take it in and how we choose to define it and experience it for ourselves. So, and again, from a daily perspective, I'm curious, how do you know whether you're going to step into the experience role or the observer role? And I really like that delineation between the two. That's really powerful for me. But how do you know which you're going to step into?
Well, I think by default, it's the experiencer role.
Mhm.
Right. And so I'm just waking up, I'm going about my day. I've got my agenda. Like I'm just going to move through it. And usually what gets my attention to say, hey, Mary, remember you have this observer role position that you could also move into. It usually takes something not going the way I wanted it to.
Mm,
Or I'm just feeling a little, I say twisted or sideways inside. Like I'm just not in alignment with myself. Like, ugh, there's this ugly energy. That reminds me to move into this observer role. And now from that role, now I get to see, well, what really is playing out here? I can tell, I know what my experience is as a player on this stage, but what else is happening here? Yeah, that's what reminds me is when I get triggered.
yeah, so powerful. I often talk about, and you've heard me, the 9 steps of gratitude. And when you start that transforming internally, you can often tell, and sometimes faster or quicker than other times, right, where you're misaligned and
Yeah.
your head and your heart aren't aligned or something just feels off or icky. And then I love that. I'm going to use that stepping into the observer role because I think that's really powerful. And being a retired actor, I will say that stage thing, I'm like, yeah, oh, I feel that. I totally can resonate. So that's
Yeah.
wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
The Untethered Soul. By the way, The Untethered Soul, Michael Singer, I think is the best book I've ever read about this observer role.
okay,
So if
untethered
anyone's
soul.
wondering, like, how do I do that? Check out Untethered Soul.
Okay, I will do that. All right, so Mary, I have one last question for
Okay.
you. So I know we could talk about gratitude and everything that it impacts all day long.
Mhm.
However, for those that are listening or for those that are watching, what is one golden nugget or purple nugget, whatever color nugget you want to call it, of wisdom that you want to offer to the audience today?
Mm. I think one of the things that makes gratitude so powerful is that it is a practice of looking inward. When we're in the experiencer role, we're looking outward. We're always looking for answers outside of us. We're looking for validation outside of us. It's all outside, and then we decide whether or not we're getting back from our environment what we want. And if we're not, then we try to behave better or meet other people's expectations so that we get what it is that we want. Mm-hmm. When I'm in that observer role, now I'm looking inward. And I think that's what makes gratitude so powerful, is because when we're looking inward, we're not looking at the problems. We're looking at believing in solutions. So when I'm looking inward, as I mentioned earlier, I can trust I'm going to find the answers inward. These answers might not align with my conscious mind, my thinking mind that says, here's how things should be. And so that's where really learning to trust ourselves, to say, my mind is running off over here, but my heart knows that this is what it wants and this is what it needs. And so who am I going to believe, right? That the whole parable of the two wolves, which wolf are you going to feed? Gratitude is that entry-level practice of looking inward and feeding that part of us.
That's so great. Thank you so much for that. So again, I want to just say thank you. Thank you for being here today and sharing your time, energy, and space. I'm really so grateful that you are part of this book and that you offered up such a beautiful chapter that people are going to resonate with. There is absolutely no doubt. And again, on November 8th, you can read Mary's chapter along with other authors in Stepping into Gratitude. And we look forward to just learning more about you, Mary, as time continues. So thank you again.
Thank you, Lisa. This is so much fun.